clarification systems for automobile insurance. Pursuant to Standing Order 98, the member has 12 minutes for his presentation.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to acknowledge a number of constituents who are here today, senior clubs, youth, some of my staff from the constituency, some of the Italian community that's here as well, all in support of this bill. Mr. Speaker, I want to address essentially an issue at its fundamental core of fairness, and it's the fairness in setting auto insurance premiums here in Ontario. Before we begin, a couple of facts to start it off with. The way the auto insurance system works here in Ontario, there are 10 territories based here in the Greater Toronto Area and about 45 territories outside of the Greater Toronto Area. Now, rates are set based on these territories. So, a good driver with a clean driving record on one side of the street may pay as much as 100% more for their insurance than a driver on the other side of the street. Across the GTA, including the City of Toronto, there are differences more than 100%. That means people are paying more than twice the rates of another driver of the same age, same driving record, same make and model of car. This is something that is simply unfair. To put it clearly, these drivers are driving the exact same roads. They're driving on the same 400 series highways. They're driving through the same cycling, pedestrian traffic. They're driving the exact same weather conditions. There's no difference in weather conditions within the GTA. They're driving in the exact same conditions, but for one difference, their neighbors are different. And because their neighbors are different, because their neighborhoods are different, they're paying twice as much as another driver. Now just imagine you decide to move your family closer to your aging parents, or you decide that you want to get a bigger house so that your children have their own bedroom. Now, just by moving a couple blocks down the road, just by moving a couple streets away, did you become a worse driver? Of course not. That doesn't make you a worse driver. But this is exactly what's happening, that people are being treated as worse drivers simply by moving some blocks away, some kilometers away. We received an email from Nina Silver, and she wrote that she moved from North York to Weston, and she moved because it was closer to her work. And here's what she said to us. When I went to update my car insurance papers after my move, I discovered that my new car insurance premium was going to cost me $850 more simply because of the change in my home address. She also adds that I'm a mature driver with no accident record and have never made a claim. She's never made a claim in her life, yet her insurance went up $850 just by moving a short distance away. Jacqueline Chouinard recounts a similar story. She had a spotless driving record. She also lives in the Western area. She writes, I moved here 2 years ago from Milton. I now pay twice the price for insurance that I previously have. I also drive half the kilometers that I previously drove, along the same roads as everyone else who lives in the Greater Toronto Area. I was told that I now live near Jane and Finch, the worst postal code for insurance rates in Canada. I actually live several kilometers away from that intersection. I don't see the justice in this. It's clear discrimination. And just to be clear, some might cite that different neighborhoods have different crime rates, perhaps car thefts or vandalism, and that might account for the difference. Absolutely not. At most, and this is records that you can confirm through the government regulator statistics, at most, vehicle thefts and vandalism account for between 3 to 4% of the premium costs. So that does not substantiate the differences in premiums. In fact, even if you look at claim rates, insurance companies' own records will show you that at most, at the extreme level, the most difference is 33% between different ridings or different territories. 33% in terms of claim rates. But our premiums are 100% different at most. That's simply not substantiated. It's not fair. There is something else going on here, something that simply isn't fair, and quite frankly, something that has to change, because the status quo in Ontario is not working. Now, the purpose of this bill is very simple. The purpose of this bill is to ban the discrimination on the basis of the neighborhood that you live in. Now, in other words, what's happening is bad drivers who have a bad record, who have accident claims, who have convictions, who live in the right neighborhoods. So bad drivers who live in the right neighborhoods are getting a discount for living in that riding, for living in that discounted area. But good drivers with clean records who have never made a claim in their life are unfairly facing a discriminatory increase in their rates simply based on where they live. And here is the heart of the matter. The heart of the matter is this: 80 to 90% of people in Ontario never make a claim in their lives. Let me just repeat that again so we understand. These are statistics that the Insurance Bureau of Canada will gladly release to you. 80 to 90% of people here in Ontario will never make a claim in their life. And despite that, if they live in the wrong neighborhood in GTA or the wrong neighborhood in Hamilton, they're going to pay twice the amount that another driver pays, who is the exact same in terms of their driving record, in terms of their accident claim, in terms of their age, in terms of their vehicle. These drivers don't cost the insurance industry a penny. They don't cost the industry anything. Yet, they're still being charged unfairly high premiums. Now, there's been some misunderstanding about the bill, and I want to clarify this right now. This bill doesn't mean that there will be an equalization of rates across Ontario. Rather, the bill will require an equalization of rates within the same demographic area, the same census metropolitan area, simply stated, the same city. So within the Greater Toronto Area, you would be ranked or you would be rated based on your driving ability, based on your convictions, based on your driving record, not based on who your neighbors are, what neighborhood you live in, what street you live on. We understand very well that the Golden Horseshoe and other high-density areas in the south cost the industry more money. Now, they can continue to create those regions. However, they can't further subdivide a region unfairly. We have built ample opportunities in this bill to allow insurers to recover the cost of providing coverage to GTA drivers. We want to ensure that these cost measures are done in a fair manner. The point of our bill has been validated by the experts. We've received testimony from experts, and we received a letter from an expert who clarifies this point dead on. I have a letter with me from Professor Mary Hardy. She is a CIBC professor for actuarial studies in Waterloo. Now, she confirms this point in no uncertain terms, very clearly that, and I quote, "An individual who moves from one area of Toronto to another with similar driving exposure does not suddenly become a worse driver, but their premiums may double." She also notes, and this is an important note that I want people to pay close attention to, that contrary to the claims made by some people that northern members or rural Ontarians will be negatively impacted, she writes to the contrary very, very clearly. As an actuarial scientist, as an expert in this field, there is no reason why the premiums outside major urban areas should change. In fact, we also heard testimony at the Auto Insurance Committee that, from another actuarial scientist, that based on the language used, it can ensure that the premiums would remain affected only in a localized area, only within the GTA or in Hamilton, and would not impact those outside those areas. Now, MAD has made some issues, or MAD Canada specifically has raised some issues. And I want to address those concerns here and now. MAD has claimed that drivers who have a bad record will somehow be let off the hook, that bad drivers who are convicted of offenses will somehow get a benefit and they would be subsidized by good drivers. That is absolutely not true. The way the bill is written right now, it's not true, but If there's any concern about that, the first rating criteria was driving record, driving safety record. If there's any confusion, I am more than happy to include an amendment that would clarify the language to include a conviction, because that's what it should read. It should be understood to be that a driver with highway traffic offense that are related to their driving, a driver with criminal code convictions related to driving should have a higher rate. That's simple. That's common sense. But those who have a safe driving record, no convictions, should not have to suffer. Brian Patterson, the president of the Ontario Safety League, was presented with the president of MAD Canada's comments, and in the committee, he responded to the concerns of the president of MAD Canada. And he stated, and I quote, "I'm not sure on what basis he drew those conclusions. Those would not be consistent with the conclusions we've drawn. I don't see the risks," when responding to MAD Canada's concerns that this would somehow subsidize bad drivers. So, Mr. Patterson, the president of the Ontario Safety League, has responded in that manner. The bottom line is this. The status quo here in Ontario is not working. It's not working for the people. It's not working for the drivers. We're open to constructive criticism, but let's have a dialogue that puts people first, puts the drivers first, and that doesn't put the insurance companies first. We've received a number of very positive suggestions, so let me preempt your suggestions now. We know that make, model, and car is an important criteria that should be added. We know that the language around convictions can be clarified so that convictions are clearly stated, both criminal code and highway traffic offenses. And we know that the regional issues can be clarified further with the right language. But let's agree on this one point, that it's simply wrong to charge the exact same driver more because he or she lives on a different street or a different postal code. That's the matter. We don't want a system that's based on unfairness, and that's the way it is today, and let's change that.
Thank you.